Hey, what's up? This is Seth Green, and you are listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark, and I am so hot, I would desperately like a glass of water. Please, please, give me some water.
This is Cindy Preston, and I'm with Mark on Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Melissa Peterman from CMT's The Singing Bee and the television show Reba. And I have to tell you, I just have to get it off my chest, I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi there. This is Faith Roscoe from General Hospital. You're listening to Mark on Somewhere in Vegas. And you better watch out. We know how to find you if you're not listening.
Hi, this is Shannon Egan from Whippet, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hey, this is Lee Allen Baker with Somewhere in Vegas, talking with Mark with a Q.
This is Courtney Cronin. You're listening to Somewhere in Vegas with your host, Mark, and I would make sure to listen every week because he's a sure bet.
Hey, this is the Money Man, Eddie Money. I got 2 tickets to Paradise, and it's, you know what? It's Somewhere in Vegas. And what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Hi, this is Crystal Kale, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Terry Nunn from Berlin, and you're listening to Mark Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Miracle Lori from Joss Whedon's Dollhouse. There are 3 flowers in a vase, and I'm listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Erin Hill, and you are listening to Mark on Blog Talk Radio and Somewhere in Vegas. Mark is a great guy.
Hi, this is Sean Pulaski. I'm still trying to figure out Mark Pico's sexuality, but I know you're listening to Somewhere Live in Vegas.
Here you go, Mark. I'm sorry. I thought you were she. I'm sorry. Get out of the tent. Let's get out of here.
Hey, this is Lance and Anna from Free Radio. And Anna?
And you're listening to Somewhere in Vegas.
Yes.
My favorite.
You know, that's usually what happens with me. I go to Vegas and I get lost, and so I end up somewhere in Vegas.
Somewhere in Vegas.
But I just don't know where it is.
Not quite sure.
Yeah, word.
Get ready. It's going to be hot. It's in Vegas. Check out Mark. Be there or be square.
My guest at this time is a very, very busy man. He has a new movie called Digging to Death. He's working on another one called Devil Comes to Kansas City. He's been working his tail off pretty much, runs his own production company, runs his own lighting company, and really cool, kind of a lot of things that he's going on his plate. He's a producer. He's a director. We got Michael Blevins on with us right now. How you doing, Michael?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. First of all, I mean, you know, recently you've been doing music videos and all that. How has that been for you to, you know, do these smaller projects and kind of keep yourself a little bit sharper?
You know, honestly, it's great. It really is kind of a balance of having, you know, paychecks that fill the voids between the movies I'm directing, but also there's new problems, there's new challenges every day. Every day is different. So I can really hone and sharpen my skills as a filmmaker, as well as a director, being on set constantly, doing other people's stuff.
Yeah, and you know, it's a little bit less stress because usually music videos take 2 or 3 days versus a long production that may be taking weeks, if not months. Yeah,
I mean it's kind of interesting because with a longer production, there is a lot of pre-production, but your days are typically not as jam-packed. You're shooting 3 or 4 pages a day. Sometimes you're shooting more, but for me, it's limited versus a music video. You're shooting what ideally you would want to take 3 days to shoot in 12 to 14 hours, plus about a week of prep to make sure that all goes well. So it's more like a gun to the head, really, but it's nice. They're fun to pepper in, you know.
Now, are you based out of Kansas City now?
No, I was born and raised in Kansas City. I've lived in Los Angeles for 9 years now.
Yeah. Now, it's been kind of interesting because obviously, you know, some of your stuff is kind of going back to your Kansas City roots as well. I mean, how's it been for production? I mean, obviously, production's been shut down in LA for the year. It might be starting to reopen a little bit more now, but how's it been for the production side of things, especially considering you have 2 movies that you're producing?
So just to be honest with you, when COVID happened, or when the official shutdown in LA happened in March of 2020, there was about 4.5 months of nothing. Like no one was working whatsoever. Like no indie kid student film, nothing. But then around mid-July, the smaller music videos started to come up again. And now, honestly, the last 4 or 5 months, it's been kind of nonstop. SAG has implemented a lot of COVID restrictions and rules that make things safer, but definitely more challenging. So when we shot The Devil Comes to Kansas City, that was in like the principal photography was in February of 2021 when COVID was still pretty rampant, and it was very challenging shooting back in KC and still having to do all of the COVID protocols and getting a whole cast and crew tested twice a day, and getting everybody or not twice a day, 3 times a week, every other day. So it's just it was nuts. But now it's starting to lighten up a little bit. It's getting a little easier. But we just roll with it.
Yeah, that's how things are usually. You have to kind of roll with the punches, as it were. I had Dee Dee Pfeiffer on, I think late last year when she was filming Big Sky, and she's up in Vancouver, and yeah, she was sequestered for quite a few days. Or when she had to go on set, it was like they rushed her on set, got her scenes done, and back to the hotel room again. So yeah, things are kind of crazy, but hopefully things kind of once the vaccinations, start to kind of roll out, maybe we'll see a little bit more relaxing of some of the things that you have to go through in terms of a production. So,
right.
Fingers crossed on that. Just as a filmmaker, first of all, let me ask you about, how you got started as a filmmaker. Tell me a little bit, about some of your history in terms of filmmaking.
So I took an interest in filmmaking actually when I was a junior in high school, and started doing some small things with friends while I was still in high school, and completely abandoned this idea that I was going to become a doctor just to tell stories, really. And I ended up, I went to Missouri State and realized I wasn't ready really for college and flunked out. And because I was playing Guitar Hero too much, and not really the beginning, great beginning of a hero story. But when I moved back to KC, I was like, I felt defeated, and I was like, I'm not gonna let this defeat me. What can I do? And I had a couple scripts that I wanted, to shoot eventually, and I had one that took place in a mall, and I was like, that took place in a shoe store, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make this movie. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to freaking do it. And I was 19 years old, and I ended up shooting this feature that it never got distributed. It was just kind of a practice thing. Looking back on it, it's just god awful, but we got it done. Right. And it actually showed in a local movie theater, and people came to a premiere, and, and that was all before I was 20. So I did 2 more kind of like that. I did a crime drama, and then another comedy, like a music comedy. And then I turned 24. At that point, I was like, all right, I got to move to LA. So I moved to LA. I didn't have any contacts out here. I didn't have really any network or even a place to live or a job. I just decided I was going to move. Came out here, handed out my business card to everybody that would take it. Eventually got on a set. I said, I work for free. I'm a PA. I'll work for free. Just get me on your damn set. Got on a set, got on a couple more sets, learned how to grip just from being on set, and then kind of actually paused the filmmaker, path just for about 5 years, where I built a lighting company because I learned how to light, and I was a gaffer on some really big projects and big movies. And like, I used to gaff like Steven Seagal movies, and I've gaffed for The Weeknd, and, basically being the guy that's coming up with the lighting concepts and stuff. But it was enough money that I actually could raise money and use revenue from my lighting company to fund Digging to Death. Or when I wrote it, it was called What's Buried in the Backyard. And then the distributor, chose this new title, as often happens. But yeah, it was cool. I was able to kind of take that money, and I didn't have to worry about owing other people. I didn't have to worry about people telling me that, things I can and can't do. And I said I was going to do it, and I got it done. So as soon as I got that movie kind of done and distributed, I pumped the brakes on the lighting side, and now I'm back full bore, this last year or so, just been just crazy nose to the grindstone on production and directing.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how important light is, especially in terms of filmmaking. I mean, you have to, it sets the mood. Obviously, the idea of how a person is lit. I'm reminded of the Seinfeld episode where there was a woman who looked great in one light but looked terrible in the other. So there's always that kind of situation. How has it been for you to have gone through the lighting aspect of filmmaking and kind of transitioning that into what your vision was for this movie?
Honestly, so both movies had Justin Jones, who's a very prolific DP out here in LA. I think his Instagram tag is @JustinJonesDP. Me and him have a very similar style. We like classic movie lighting, Far Side Key kind of stuff, and soft edges, not that bright, shiny edge shit, but just really classic lighting. And so that's kind of how me and him have done a lot of, because I used to work for him gaffing on these bigger music videos and stuff, and we created this look. So when I was directing and I was hiring him, we didn't really have to talk about the look necessarily, or what, or even how to accomplish it, because I knew he kind of had that, and then I put a gaffer in that was competent on both of these films. But it helped in the production side, knowing like, okay, we literally drove a Sprinter van from LA to Kansas City, just because it's all my lights and stuff, but it's just a Sprinter van. So I had to be very selective as to what I was going to bring. And I wanted to bring some like big units, like big movie lights, but I also needed some like smaller interior stuff, generators, all that. So I had to, from a cost-effective standpoint and from just a creative standpoint, how was I going to be able to achieve the look that I needed with only a Sprinter van? How was I going to make a $1 million movie look like $1 million with just a small Sprinter van package? So because of my lighting, experience, I was able to achieve that.
Yeah, and sometimes less is more. Sometimes you overthink it. So it's really kind of easy for you to take a smaller kit and just be able to work with what you have as well. And obviously a lot what goes on with Digging to Death is the fact you have like visual effects where you have your main antagonist, in certain situations where you have to have it lit kind of really interestingly enough to kind of get that shock and awe on that as well. Obviously, I mean, this is obviously your first horror film, right?
Yes.
I mean, how was it for you to do a horror film like this?
Honestly, like I wrote this movie because the house that I moved into is actually the house in the movie, and it's just a big property. And so I was like, I have to shoot a movie here. And then I knew that horror movies were easier to sell than traditionally than most any other movies. So I was like, well, that's kind of the whole point, is just to make this, sell it, show a profit, move to the next movie. And just from a business side, so I was like, okay, so now from the creative side, how do I make a horror movie that I want to watch? Because I don't like horror movies. I don't really think there's a couple that are good, I guess, but most of them are just kind of like blood and tits and gore, or like, I like story. So I was like, how can I write a horror movie that kind of freaks me out?